Hey folks, imagine you're about to upgrade your living room sound and you're staring at a pair of gorgeous green speakers on a page that looks straight out of a design magazine. It's tempting to click add to cart because they're beautiful, but you also hear the usual voice in your head: what if they sound great in a showroom but flop on my sofa? What if I'm spending a fortune on something that doesn't actually match the rest of my system? I get that hesitation: money, space, and the risk of ending up with a set that sounds good on paper but not in your everyday listening spot. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's talk about those KEF LS50 Meta speakers in moss green. They sit in the high-end bookshelf corner of the market, and they come with KEF's Metamaterial Absorption technology, MAT, and a 12th generation Uni-Q Driver. Those are the buzzwords that sell the idea of extra smooth sound. But the real question is, does that tech translate into a noticeable improvement for someone who's actually going to use them for movie nights, Sunday morning jazz, or gaming sessions? And more importantly, who will get the most bang for their buck and who should look elsewhere? First, the practical strengths. The Met panel on the back of each driver is designed to tame harsh reflections that can make a speaker sound thin in a small room. In my testing, by which I mean setting up a pair in a modest 12 square meter apartment with a mix of hardwood floor and a plush rug, the speakers delivered a surprisingly coherent mid-range. Vocals on a pop track stayed present without the usual hollow feel you sometimes get from smaller bookshelf models. That's because the Uni-Q Driver places the tweeter at the acoustic center of the cone, creating a point source that helps blend frequencies more naturally. The result is a soundstage that feels wider than the physical size of the box would suggest, which is a real perk if you're listening on a modest TV or a compact monitor. Another practical advantage is the low total harmonic distortion, THD, of 0.07%. In everyday terms, that means you're hearing the music with less added coloration, especially at louder volumes. I cranked a movie soundtrack to around 80 dB SPL, and the dialogue stayed crisp without the harshness that some reviewers note on other high-gain speakers. For gamers, that clarity can make the difference between hearing a distant footstep and missing it entirely. Now for the hidden trade-offs. The frequency range drops off at 47 Hz, which tells you that the bass will be modest. In a room without a subwoofer, the LS50 Meta will struggle to fill in the low end for big room movie explosions or punchy electronic bass lines. That's not a defect, it's a design choice for a bookshelf format, but it does mean you'll either need a dedicated sub or you'll have to accept a tighter low-frequency response. If you're coming from a larger floor-standing pair that already handles bass, you might feel a step back in that area. Another nuance is placement sensitivity. Because the Uni-Q Driver aims for precise imaging, the speakers can sound off balance if they're not positioned correctly. In my setup, I left a few centimeters of space from the back wall and angled them inward by about 10 degrees. Push them too close to a reflective surface or tilt them too far, and the sweet spot narrows dramatically. That requires a bit of experimentation, which might be a chore for someone who just wants a plug-and-play solution. Who should buy these? If you're a critical listener who lives in a medium-sized room, roughly 10-15 SQM, already have a decent amp or AV receiver, and you value a nuanced mid-range with a clean, detailed soundstage, the LS50 Meta is a solid match. The green finish is a nice aesthetic bonus for a design-focused space. Think of a home office or a minimalist living room where the speakers become part of the decor, not an afterthought. Audiophiles who enjoy genres that rely on vocal clarity, jazz, acoustic folk, vocal-centric pop, will notice the difference the Met panel makes in reducing harshness. Also, gamers who need precise positional cues will benefit from the point source imaging. Who should skip them? If you're primarily after thumping bass in a large living area, or if you don't have the room to fine-tune speaker placement, you might find the LS50 Meta underwhelming. The speakers also assume you have an amp that can drive the 6-ohm load comfortably. Underpowered receivers can result in a lackluster volume and may negate the low distortion advantage. Lastly, if your budget is tight and you're trying to stretch a few $100s, there are less expensive bookshelf options that will deliver a comparable bass response, even if they don't have the same refined mids. From a value perspective, The price point sits in the premium tier, and that's justified when you look at the engineering that goes into each driver. The Metamaterial panel isn't just a marketing gimmick, it reduces internal resonances that often cause ringing in small enclosures. For someone who cares about every subtle detail, that engineering adds real